this section, you will be able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the requirements of the ISM code. The task facing all shipping companies is to minimize the scope of poor human decisions that contribute directly or indirectly to a casualty or a pollution incident. One aim should be to ensure that staff are properly informed and equipped to fulfill their operational responsibilities safely. Decisions taken ashore can be as important as those taken at sea. It is necessary to ensure that every action affecting safety or the prevention of pollution taken at any level within the company is based on a sound understanding of its consequences. The development by IMO of the International Management Code for the safe operation of ships and for pollution prevention is a reflection of this objective on the part of governments. The ISM Code establishes an international standard for the safe management and operation of ships by setting rules for the organization of company management in relation to safety and pollution prevention, and for the implementation of a safety management system. The goals of the safety management system are: establish standardized company procedures, specify commitment to safety and environmental protection, provide a reporting and tracking system for undesirable incidents, establish routines to prevent recurrence of undesirable incidents. The functional requirements for a safety management system are: a safety and environmental protection policy, instructions, procedures and checklists to ensure safe operations of ships and protection of the environment in compliance with relevant international, national and port state regulations. Defined levels of authority and lines of communication between and among shore and shipboard personnel. Procedures for reporting accidents and non-conformities with the provisions of the Code. Procedures to prepare for and respond to emergency situations. And procedures for internal audits and management reviews. All companies should have a safety and environmental policy. It should describe the aim of the safety management system and also outline a strategy and plan of action to achieve and maintain the aim. Here are some key elements that such a policy can include: compliance with rules, regulations and industry guidelines, active participation by personnel in achieving high levels of safety. All activities should be done in accordance with safety management system procedures as far as is practical. Open communication amongst crew members and with shore staff, including the designated person, is essential for improving safety. Everyone is encouraged to suggest improvements regarding policies and procedures. Training and education are important to achieve high standards of safety and environmental protection. The safety management system is continually reviewed to ensure that it is realistic and adequate to meet our objectives. Click on the manual to get more information. The main book includes policies and procedures applicable to the whole organization, the ship book includes procedures, routines and checklists referring to onboard operations. It can be divided into General Part, Bridge Order Book, Cargo/Deck Order Book, and Engine Order Book. The Vessel Response Plan, VRP, includes procedures and checklists of relevant actions in case of emergencies. For example, grounding, touching bottom, collision, fire and explosion, hull failure, excessive list, and equipment failure. A fundamental component of the SMS is the designated person, DP. This person oversees the operations of the SMS. The designated person acts as a safety valve or short fuse when there is a problem with matters concerning safety or pollution. If there are safety or pollution concerns that are not being handled appropriately on board, any crew member can contact the DP. The DP will then try to correct the situation. The DP can also bring critical issues to the top management's attention without delay. The safety management system is a dynamic system. This means that the system is always constantly under development. If rules and regulations change, the vessels get new equipment, or if there is a safer way to complete a task with specified procedures, the system has to be modified. This is done by analyses of reports, suggested modifications, audits, and reviews. To demonstrate how to use reports within the safety management system, understanding of audits and revisions of the ISM code, the following are to be reported from the vessel to the designated person according to the ISM code: accidents, hazardous occurrences, non-conformities within the SMS, suggested modifications and improvements to the SMS. Click the reports to get more information. An accident is an undesired event that may result in injury or loss of life, harm or potential harm to the environment, major damage to the ship and machinery. A hazardous occurrence is an undesired event which, under slightly different circumstances, could have resulted in injury or loss of life, harm or potential harm to the environment, major damage to the ship and machinery, that is, near miss. A non-conformity is a situation where objective evidence indicates the non-fulfillment of a specified requirement. A minor non-conformity indicates a need to fix the SMS so that requirements are met in future. A major non-conformity indicates a serious breakdown of the SMS and is grounds for withdrawal of the ship's ISM certificate and detention. Or instruction within the SMS is found to be incorrect, or if the procedure or instruction should be changed due to changes in practical operation and/or a modification/rebuilding has been carried out on the vessel, a suggested modifications and improvement to the SMS report should be forwarded to the designated person. Match the correct report to send to the DP for each case. It is of the utmost importance that not only accidents, but also hazardous occurrences, commonly referred to as near misses, are reported. The reason is obvious. Many of these injuries and accidents could have been avoided if near accidents had been reported. All personnel have to know that the safety management system is a live system and that modifications can be introduced and new entries added. It is the responsibility of each individual, ashore and on board, to report to the appropriate officer or manager whenever any part in the safety management system has to be revised due to existing procedures and policies, or when instructions are inconsistent with reality. If any procedure or instruction within the safety management system is found to be incorrect, a report should be forwarded to the designated person. The same action is required if the procedure or instruction should be altered due to changes in practical operation, or if a modification or a rebuilding has been carried out on the vessel. Then a Suggested Modifications and Improvement to the Safety Management System document should be made. All modifications or improvements to the Safety Management System manual should be sent to the designated person. Urgent modifications or improvements should be implemented as soon as possible. Suggested modifications or improvements deemed to be a matter of routine or a clerical matter and not urgent should be properly filed by the designated person when received and implemented on a biannual schedule. When the designated person receives the report, it should be thoroughly reviewed and evaluated, and, if necessary, sent out for comments to all vessels before executing the change. The ISM code has no specific requirement for records to be kept, except those relating to inspections, non-conformities, and the resulting corrective action. In practice, you will not be able to show that you are following the SMS unless you keep records. Examples of records that can show that you have followed the procedures of the SMS are copies of accident and hazardous occurrence reports, copies of completed checklists, copies of expired work permits, records of maintenance and testing. Digital photographs can show that emergency drills took place on schedule, as well as for discussing drill effectiveness later. Audits or inspections against the ISM code will look for records showing that you have done what the SMS tells you to do, so accurate records are essential. The records produced and the time for which they are kept will normally be set by the company, so do not throw away used permits and checklists without thought. The ISM code requires regular reviews to ensure it still works well. The reviews are On-Board Review, Master's Review, Management Review. Click the reviews for more information. All employees should continually review the SMS. The review, if not formal, should serve as a continuous improvement process. The master should formally review the SMS at least once a year. The master's review is to be conducted to ensure that the vessel is operating within the SMS and that the procedures are realistic and suitable. Management reviews should be conducted annually. The management review will ensure that the following items are carried out: analyses of accidents, hazardous occurrences, and experience reports with a review of trends in incidents. Audit findings analysed. Evaluation of master's reviews. Recommendations following class and statutory surveys and discussion of upcoming regulations. Considerations for updating the system as a result of fleet changes, trade and market strategies, new regulations, or changes in social and environmental attitudes, and review policy to ensure that it meets current needs. An audit is a formal check to verify compliance with the ISM code. Both the office and the vessels have to be audited. After passing the audit, the office gets a document of compliance, and ships get a safety management certificate. The ships and the office will have an internal audit by company staff at least once per year, or an external audit by class society or flag state according to the ISM code to check that everybody is following the safety management system. A dynamic principle and quality aspect of the safety management system is the principle of continuous improvement. We should identify mistakes and learn from them in order to prevent reoccurrence. The diagram shown is an example of how the safety management system continuous improvement works. How and when to use work permits. Understanding of plans and procedures. Only a small proportion of injuries are caused by exceptional incidents such as collisions and grounding. The majority of accidents arise because recognized safe working practices or company procedures are ignored. Always follow safe working practices. The number of injuries caused by failure of machinery or equipment is small compared with those caused by human error. Some accidents happen because of lapses in concentration or misjudgments. Others are caused by inexperience or recklessness. Overconfidence can lead to carelessness, and experienced seafarers who have performed the task many times before can be particularly at risk. In nearly all operational procedures and instructions, safeguards are built in to protect the environment from any kind of pollution. Therefore, do not deviate from any written procedure or instruction, as they are made in order to protect the environment from risk of pollution. The ISM code requires your company to develop plans and procedures for key shipboard operations concerning the safety of the personnel, ship, and protection of the environment. Before carrying out any task on board, you have to check in the safety management system if there is any written procedure or plan describing how to do it. If so, you have to follow that plan. A checklist is a written memo to accomplish a series of tasks. A checklist is not a substitute for thorough knowledge of the ship or procedures. Click on a checklist to see examples. In case of emergency, it is even more important to use checklists as a memory aid. In an emergency situation, everyone is under stress, and therefore care needs to be taken not to miss any important task. Click on a checklist to see more details. In order to avoid accidents and eliminate the risk of fire and explosion on board, it is necessary to plan any work and confirm the work will be safe by issuing any necessary work permits before the work starts. All permits should be prepared and suitably trained crew members should be chosen to carry out the work. Before a hot work or an enclosed space entry permit is issued, the relevant SMS procedure, which will be based upon International Safety Guide for Oil Tankers and Terminals guidelines, must be consulted. The permit should specify the particular item of equipment or area involved, the extent of work permitted, the conditions to be observed, the time and the duration of validity. The validity of a permit should normally not exceed 12 hours. All work permits are to be filed in a binder. Examples of typical work permits include hot work permit, enclosed space entry permit, electrical work permit, working aloft permit, working outboard permit, cold work permit, small craft alongside permit, underwater work permit. Click the work permits to get more information. Enclosed space entry permits should be issued when involving risks like lack of oxygen or dangerous gases. Examples of such work are tank inspections and entering cargo holds without forced ventilation. The procedures in your SMS manual are there to improve safety and minimize risk of pollution. These aims are shared by the rules in SOLAS and MARPOL. SOLAS and MARPOL have some specific requirements for plans and procedures which may be kept separate from your SMS manual. For example, MARPOL requires most ships to carry a garbage management plan, which will contain written procedures for collecting, storing, processing and disposing of garbage, including the use of equipment on board. In addition, the plan will designate the person in charge of carrying out the plan. And a shipboard oil pollution emergency plan, which will contain written procedures for reporting and responding to an oil pollution incident. The plan will include contact information and procedures for coordinating the ship's response with that of the local authorities. Plans required by SOLAS that may be kept separate from the SMS include Ship Security Plan, which will contain procedures to protect persons on board, the cargo and the ship from the risks of a security incident by setting out procedures to provide security and how to respond to a report of a security breach. Decision support systems for passenger ships, which will contain plans for dealing with emergencies such as those listed. Previously, in this program, you learned that about 20% of all accidents are related to equipment failure. The best ways to avoid equipment failure are regular maintenance and testing. The ISM code requires the company to establish procedures to ensure that the ship is maintained in conformity with the relevant regulations, identify equipment and technical systems, the sudden operational failure of which may result in hazardous situations, often referred to as critical equipment. The SMS should contain measures to promote the reliability of such equipment or systems, including regular testing of standby arrangements and equipment or technical systems that are not in continuous use. The maintenance has to be planned. Most vessels today have a computerized maintenance system, which will help you not to miss any important maintenance work or scheduled testing of critical equipment. this section, you will be able to demonstrate how to use the safety management system on board your vessel. When joining your vessel, you should be given a familiarization tour. The purpose of this tour is to introduce you to the various equipment and functions of the safety management system. After this orientation, it is your responsibility to read the required information in the safety management system and to ask questions where clarification is needed. Completing this computer-based training program about the ISM code can serve as a part of your familiarization. This is an example of a responsibility chart for shore staff. This is an example of a responsibility chart for onboard personnel. The duty list should not be understood as being the only document stating all duties and responsibilities for each crew member. It is made in order to make it easier for each new employee to know his or her main duties. In addition, there are certainly a variety of other duties and responsibilities on board the vessel that cannot be exactly specified in print. However, these duties are to be performed anyway. The main duty for each crew member is to minimize all possible safety hazards in all kinds of shipboard activities and always strive to find safer methods of performing the daily work routine. Click on your position to see examples of your duties. The crew members and other personnel on board must familiarize themselves with the muster list and emergency instructions which are displayed on board. They specify details of the general emergency alarm signal and also the action to be taken by crew and passengers when the alarm is sounded. They specify details of the fire emergency signal and also the action to be taken by crew and passengers when the alarm is sounded. They show the duties assigned to the different crew. In order to be prepared for an emergency situation, safety drills and training are of the utmost importance. Frequency and type of drills must be in accordance with rules in the Training Manual, SOLAS, the Vessel Response Plan, the Safety Management System, and Flag State regulations. The following are some examples of drills you have on board. Firefighting drills, lifeboat and life-saving appliances drills, personal protection drills, environmental protection drills, emergency steering drills, man overboard drills, medical care drills, personal safety and social responsibility drills, and garbage handling drills. Remember, without proper drills and training, you are not prepared for an emergency situation. One of the most common causes of human error is fatigue. Therefore, we have strict rules regarding working hours. The Maritime Labour Convention requires flag states to make regulations limiting seafarers' hours of work and setting minimum hours of rest. STCW specifies minimum hours of rest, but stricter limits may be required by your flag state, particularly if you are under 18. Exceptions are allowed in the case of an emergency, a drill, or an overriding condition which was not foreseen before starting the voyage. It is your responsibility to make best use of the rest periods provided, so that you are properly rested before taking over the watch. When signing on, you will get the necessary personal protective equipment required for your job. Depending on your position on board, It can be safety shoes, boiler suits, hard hats, ear protection, safety goggles, gloves, etc. It's your responsibility always to wear the correct personal protective equipment and to keep it in good condition. Smoking is only permitted on board under controlled conditions. Smoking is only allowed in designated smoking places, and all smoking within restricted areas is strictly prohibited. If you smoke, make sure you know where you are allowed to smoke before you light up your cigarette. Drug and alcohol policy. This policy concerns all employed personnel within the company. Key words are drugs, alcohol, help to your fellow sailor. Click the keywords for more information. Your company may have rules about the disclosure of the personal carriage and use of drugs. Some drugs, for example codeine, are legal in some countries but illegal in others. The possession or use of any illegal drugs will not be permitted on any ship or place of work of the company. Because of the great safety hazard created by persons who have taken illegal drugs, most companies will support port state authorities, oil companies and oil terminals when checking that ships and crews are free of drugs. Different companies have different rules about alcohol. Some do not allow it at all on board their vessels, and some allow small quantities. It is important that you know and follow the limits set by your company. If you think that a crew member has problems with drugs or alcohol, try to talk to them first, and, if not satisfied by their answers, talk to your superiors. If a fellow crew member seems to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol on duty, it is your obligation to report it to your superiors immediately. It is very dangerous to ignore such behavior, and you can endanger the safety of the ship and its crew, as well as the environment. All vessels should have an active safety committee, bound to meet at frequent intervals to discuss general safety and safety matters that can be improved. The frequency of the meetings should not be less than once a month. Whenever any employee so requires, or when incidents have occurred, a new meeting should take place. Reports from such meetings should be filed on board. The members of the committee should normally be as follows. The company representatives are the master, the chief engineer, the chief officer, and the first engineer. The employee representatives are one representative each from the deck, engine, and galley departments. If there is something you want to bring up in a meeting, talk to the representative from your department.